It is Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely coming to you from his home. I'm Maurice Patton coming to you from our headquarters here at Main Street Murray in Columbia, and we're looking forward to being here with you for the next couple of hours talking local, regional, and national sports topics. Should be a lot of fun. Again, Top 5 Tuesday, final segment of the day. Wade and I will be bringing you our most memorable pro sports trades. Can't imagine where that idea came from. Yeah.
Probably the Fox trade, right?
That was it. That was exactly it, the De'Aaron Fox trade. In the second hour, we will be joined, as we typically are on Tuesdays, by the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters, talking all things MTSU. In the second segment, we will be joined by the executive director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, Brad Willis. They got somebody else yesterday, Wade. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Man, I can't wait to ask Brad about his tactics, because he's like a ninja, man. He's just sneaking around and just snake biting people left and right.
Yeah, I mean, all he needs is the black outfit and a sword or whatever that. I don't think it's a sword, but you know, that sharp object. So we'll be visiting with him in the next segment, talking Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame and their upcoming induction of their 20-member class this summer and the latest of those. So looking forward to both those. Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to both those conversations. We'll also be talking a little NFL because, again, there's rumor has it there's a big game this weekend. So might ought to talk a little bit about it. So we'll be getting into that and some other NFL notes. Also, some college basketball, both men's and women's, a little Major League Baseball action. And again, in that final segment, we'll be talking about our most memorable trades. So looking forward to that as well. Wade, big show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. First of all, anytime you have Chip on, you know it's going to be good, but you also don't know what the heck is going to transpire. So that kind of adds to the fun of it. And then Brad, of course, we've talked about his exploits. I mean, you know, we've had him on the show numerous times, and he always delivers too. But this is kind of his busy season, so it's going to be fun. And that's just with our two guests. Obviously, we got a ton else to break down throughout the course of the next couple.
Plenty for sure. So we should probably go ahead and move toward doing that with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. The Tuesday rundown is here. We are off. We are running. Girls basketball scores from last night. Let's go to high school action where Hampshire picked up a 57-45 victory versus Frank Hughes. Moore County takes care of Murfreesboro Central Magnet 65-23. Watertown 49, Gordonsville 41, and it was Pearl Cone defeating White House Heritage 57-40. Boys scores from last night. Frank Hughes all over Hampshire 62-29. Central Magnet squeaks out a 1-point victory on the road versus Moore County. Good win for the Tigers there. Gordonsville picks up a emphatic victory, for lack of a better term, 61-32 versus Watertown, and White House Heritage gets the split, defeating Pearl Cone 65-51. NHL action last night. Close game early, not close late, as the Senators come into Bridgestone Arena and take care of the Preds 5-2. And in the NBA last night, it was the Grizzlies defeating the Spurs 128-109.
High school basketball games tonight. It's a 5 o'clock tip-off. These are double headers. They're 6 o'clock unless otherwise noted, starting with the girls. But again, Father Ryan and Ensworth getting going at 5 this evening. 6 o'clock starts as Loretto travels to Battle Creek, also as Christ Presbyterian hosts Tennessee Heat. Harpeth goes to Camden Central. Antioch is at Cane Ridge. Nolensville goes to Centennial. Clarksville is hosting Dixon County. Kenwood goes to Clarksville Northwest. Coffee County is at Columbia Central. Providence Christian is at Columbia Academy at 6. Laverne goes to Cookville. Hang on, because I lost my scroll. Okay. Hampshire is at Cornersville. Back-to-backs for the Hawks and Lady Hawks. Montgomery Central goes to Creekwood. also, shoot, Wade, I have screwed something up here. Pick me up.
Yep. Let's see where we're at here.
Hang on. Let me. Okay, here we go. Whoa, this is interesting because this says Montgomery Central at Creekwood, but it also says Fairview at Creekwood. So, yeah, Creekwood's Creekwood's got some issues. Forest is at Cullioca. Good Pasture goes to Donaldson Christian. Clarksville Academy is at Davidson Academy. Cascade goes to Eagleville. East Robertson is hosting Todd County Central out of Kentucky. Friendship Christian is at Ezel Harding. FC Boyd Senior Christian has a 2-0 win over Dixon Academy. That sounds like a forfeit since it's already in the books. Independence is at Franklin. Wrong Eagles. Beach goes to Gallatin. White House Heritage is at Greenbrier. No, White House is at Greenbrier. White House Heritage is at Hendersonville. Overton goes to Hillsboro. Hume Fogg is hosting Glencliff. McGavitt goes to Hunters Lane. East Nashville is at Kip Nashville. Rossview goes to Kirkwood. And STEM Academy is at Lead Academy.
Other games on the docket tonight. Franklin County will visit Lawrenceburg for a showdown at Lawrence County in a District 8 AAA affair. Smyrna will be at Lebanon this evening. Cheatham County is going to be at Liberty Creek. Lawson will be at Maplewood tonight. Giles County will be at Marshall County. You can hear that game broadcast on Pulaski Citizen Live. Bit of a late switcheroo, but Mark Mize will be your broadcaster for that ball game tonight. Should be a fun one. Again, in 8 AAA. Houston County will be at McEwen tonight at 6 o'clock. BGA traveling to Middle Tennessee Christian. It'll be Green Hill at Mount Juliet. Murfreesboro Central Magnet will play host to Tullahoma. Also showing Marshall County at Murfreesboro Central Magnet. So buckle up, District 8 AAA action. I can guarantee you it's going to be Tullahoma at Magnet tonight. Marshall County is hosting Giles County. It'll be Brentwood at Page tonight at 6. Brentwood Academy is at Pope John Paul II. Joe Burns will be at Portland. Summit will be at Ravenwood. Blackman is traveling to Riverdale. I mentioned the switcheroo. Yours truly will now be on the call tonight for Richland at Santa Fe. So buckle up, Raiders. I'm coming for you at 6 o'clock tonight. Coming in hot, that is. Oakland will be at Siegel beginning at 6 for our doubleheader. Lincoln County traveling to Spring Hill. It'll be Clarksville Northeast at Springfield. Macon County will be at Station Camp. You can catch Mount Pleasant at Summertown tonight. Fairview, be advised if you're a Fairview fan, not sure where they're playing, but we also have a game listed at Sycamore. Grace Christian Franklin will be at University School of Nashville. Martin Luther King will be at Valor Collegiate. Franklin Road Academy visiting the Webb School tonight. It'll be Henry County at West Creek. Westmoreland will welcome Merrill Hyde to town. Whites Creek will also do the same as Republic pays a visit to the Cobras tonight. And then Stewart's Creek will be on the road this evening, again at 6 o'clock at Wilson Central.
Girls only games at 6 o'clock. St. Cecilia goes to Christ Presbyterian Academy. That's going to be interesting as well. Also at 6, Harpeth Hall is at Lipscomb Academy in a girls only matchup. At 7 o'clock, Mount Juliet Christian's boys travel to Nashville Christian, and Lipscomb Academy hosting Montgomery Bell Academy at 7:30. SEC action. Vanderbilt goes to Gainesville taking on the Gators. That is a 6 o'clock tip-off here in Nashville. You can see it on the SEC network. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill here in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. The TSSAA Legislative Council met earlier today over in Mount Juliet, a special called meeting to discuss the transfer rule and the residence rule for schools that have residents, primarily Baylor, McCallie, and St. Andrew, Sewanee, and whether to amend or do anything else with those. And there were 3 proposals brought before the Legislative Council, all of which were voted against. So no changes to any transfer rules for high school athletics in the state of Tennessee coming out of today's legislative council meeting, which means that most likely the state legislature is going to be weighing in on this in some way, shape, or form. There's obviously some concern about how students' eligibilities will be impacted with the advent of vouchers across the state as students leave one school to go to another school and take their voucher with them, and trying to retain immediate eligibility under those conditions. So with the legislative council taking no action, there had been anticipated that they were going to vote in a one-time free transfer regardless of change of residence or anything else with immediate eligibility. Apparently that was not the case today. So should get interesting. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah, it feels inevitable, right? And TSSAA, kind of by not taking any action, you kind of can look at this two ways, right? You can put your hands up and say, hey, we don't want to start meddling when it feels like something is going to happen down the road anyway. Let's just wait and see how it plays out legally, which, like you said, feels inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So a chance to no need to really start getting your fingerprints all over things if you sense that something's probably going to happen anyway down the road. Well, the way I'd interpret that.
The flip of that, though, is you might want to be a little proactive with regards to this, because the people on Capitol Hill don't necessarily have the high school athletic background to really get the nuance of all of this. And there are a lot of cans of worms that can get opened if you just throw this thing open. And I think I don't know how this is going to go. I don't really care for the one-time transfer rule, but it kind of feels like the lesser of a bunch of evils. And I think by taking no action today, then maybe the TSSAA has left itself open for some of those evils, because again, I just don't think that everybody involved or everybody that's going to have a vote in Nashville on this necessarily understands what they're voting on.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, if this gets elevated and, we're talking about courts ruling, they're going to rule just based on the law and the facts they're presented. But like you said, there's so many minutia and so many delicate details that kind of have to go into this. So it will be a fascinating song and dance. And it feels like we see this regardless of whatever issue we're talking about when courts rule one way or the other. NIL, for example, right? We see a massive course correction when a decision comes down, and then you kind of have to flip it back the other way, and then we eventually start teetering until we kind of arrive at that homeostasis right there in the middle. But that takes forever. It feels like even in expedited cases where it feels like a lot of these issues with NIL have flown through the system a little faster than others. So yeah, this is going to be kind of an interesting situation. I would have liked to have known too, how much. I'm curious how much of this has already been brought up at other state levels, if at all, because surely you would think these folks would have maybe done their homework or take some guidance from other states. But I'm always fascinated by that component. Anytime TSSAA makes a decision, is it purely independent, or how heavily, if at all, do they weigh decisions from other legislature or governing bodies, if you will, from other states?
You're right. And I feel like, in my experience in dealing with the TSSAA, I think Ronnie Carter and Bernard Childress and now Mark Reeves have all kind of had collegial relationships with their counterparts in other states. And I feel like they're always trying to pick each other's brains and that kind of thing. But I think they're dealing with something right here, right now with the voucher situation that we're really kind of on the cutting edge of. And I don't know how other states have dealt with eligibility as it relates to kids taking their money and going from school A to school B and having immediate eligibility. I think that there are some states that have immediate eligibility anyway in the event of a transfer. So, I think the biggest concern here for followers of high school athletics are again, as I said, the legislative council, they are all educators. They are all here on the ground level with high school athletics and with high school education and that kind of thing. And I feel like they've got some insight that maybe, with all due respect, a lot of our legislators may not necessarily have. And all they is the NCAA transfer portal and NIL, like you said, which the TSSAA has adopted in some form, did that a couple of years ago. But the NCAA and the TSSAA are not the same entities. They're not dealing with the same situations. And so trying to apply one to the other is going to be foolhardy, maybe. So we'll see. But again, the Legislative Council today did not take any action with regards to amending the transfer rule, and we will see where that goes next. So
pretty wild, right? I mean, and it wasn't close, it seems like, amongst the three proposals, what, a 35-1 vote. So it seems like the inaction was the overwhelming vote on that. And you made a great point earlier when you say, you're not taking any action. And so in that sense, you can kind of, hold your hands up and say, hey, well, we didn't necessarily approve this, but you're also kind of leaving it up to some other folks to decide for you, which you may eventually get right. But you could also make a pretty strong argument it'd been nice just to try and get it the way you wanted it beforehand, right?
I think that's the thing. I think that's what needed to happen, was that you craft something that I think it's better to get it right the first time, or to get it as right as you can the first time, than to have to try to fix it on the back end. And once the state legislature acts on this, then there's going to be a lot of holes, a lot of things that didn't get addressed, and you've got to try to stick your fingers in a lot of dikes to plug up a lot of leaks at that point. And I kind of feel like that's kind of where this thing is heading ultimately. So obviously we'll see, but I don't know that this was a good outcome, all things considered. So let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back on Top 5 Tuesday, we will be joined by the Executive Director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, Brad Willis. Stay tuned.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment, Wade and I will be giving you our most memorable pro sports trades. Should be fun. And typically we kind of have a golden standard, and obviously the Luka move from over the weekend is where all this stems from. So that won't be on our list. Sorry, Wade. That one's ineligible.
Nah, man, that was up 4th or 5th on my list, I think, right?
We are pleased to now have with us the executive director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, Brad Willis, who has been out and about doing what he does this time of year, making folks' lives, basically. I mean, Brad, first of all, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Great to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
And again, we've had you on past occasions, and your reveals are so cool the way you go about it. I got a lot of admiration for that, the way you tend to actually surprise folks. The one with Mike Keith a few years ago was a classic, I think. But yesterday was probably one of the more energetic reveals that you've had as you welcomed former Pearl-Cohn High School basketball standout, former University of Tennessee basketball standout Ron Slay as the latest member of the 2025 induction class. And knowing you in this process, knowing Slay, there had to be a lot of fire in that room.
It was an absolutely electric afternoon, and so much of that credit goes to Ramon Foster. Those two guys are brothers, and they are so connected. And so I called Ramon maybe a month ago, maybe not quite a month ago, but I said, hey, I'm going to let you in on some news. But, the trick to making one of these really work is making sure that everyone who can be there is there. You never want to get to the end of one and somebody say, oh gosh, I wish my mom had been here. She'd have been here if she'd have known. And so I called Ramon and I said, everybody who needs to be involved. If you'll work to get them there, we'll work to make it happen. And so he deserves most of the credit in pulling off the surprise for Ron. He never saw it coming. And Ron is an absolutely he has an infectious personality. If you've been around him at all, you understand. I mean, he's just somebody who lights up a room. And so to see him kind of start to process that information and look around and see his wife and so many members of his family and former teammates. And it was a really cool environment. Really happy that we were able to do it. And somebody jokingly said that I've become the Ed McMahon of Tennessee sports, which I think is funny because that's kind of the goal, just show up on somebody's doorstep and give them good news. And we've had a real good run of being able to surprise some folks and, really get the word out about our organization as we look to kind of announce our class every year. And this year's no different. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, you say that Ramon deserves a lot of the credit. Obviously, he knew who to call, but at the same time, you knew to call Ramon too. So there's something to be said for that as well. I mean, you didn't know everybody that needed to be there, but you knew someone that would. And there's something to be said for that. So while Ramon needs some shine, don't give him all of it,
Well, I'll tell you, there were people walking in the room. We were so, kind of like locked into our time and making sure that we were, not going to get caught in the hallway or anything like that before it actually happened, that there were so many people, I didn't see them all. And so we walked into the studio, and lo and behold, who comes in but Big John Henderson, who had come up from Florida just to be a part of the surprise. And so I looked up across the room, and of course, this, and a lot of people know this, everybody calls him Joe. And I looked up, and you could probably hear me on the air just scream out, Joe, because I had no idea he was going to be there. So it was really cool that he was able to come up. We actually included Ron in the surprise when we told Joe about that a couple of years ago. So he was able to return the favor and be a part of it for Ron's announcement this year.
And it was pretty cool, Brad. You nailed the dap up, but you did look a little like Roger Goodell, man, because Slay is 6'8". So, I mean, you kind of had Goodell vibes, no, not knocking you, but I mean, Slay's a big dude, but you nailed the dap and the hug. So I thought it was fantastic. Your delivery continues to get better and better.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. The one downside to doing this job, especially when we have a lot of basketball inductees, is I'm around a lot of tall people for photographs. And someone sent me a text last night and they said, man, he is huge. And I said, you're right. But next to me, he looks even bigger. So it's one of those things that I'm glad I've been able to get. But you're right. I could see the Roger Goodell comparison. I was really just kind of glad that he didn't give me the big bear hug. I'm not sure my back could have survived.
Yeah, but we were a small step away from that because you two obviously have such a history as well. So I mean, it would have been okay, I think, for a bear hug at that point.
Ron's great and super excited for him. Just like I said, we keep this is our 60th class. Which is really crazy to think about. This organization was established in 1966, and so that first class was a big class. I think there were 25 members that year, and we've typically been around 11 or 12. This is our 60th class, and so our board of directors actually voted to make it a little bit of a bigger class this year. We want to recognize the fact that it's our 60th class, and so we'll have 20 members all told. And to date, we've announced 14 of those. So we've got a handful more that we're going to roll out over the next handful of weeks, and looking forward to it. We certainly haven't run out of big names, and just super excited for everybody that we've been able to announce so far. And, we've been, lucky in that some schedules have worked out and we've gotten to, surprise some folks face to face, and that's been really fun.
Brad Willis, Executive Director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I don't guess you want to give us any hints on any of those remaining 6, do you?
Well, I could give you hints, but I don't know. I mean, we've still got some basketball, we've still got some football, we still have a couple of mid-state announcements. A couple of East Tennessee announcements. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really solid group, top to bottom. I think I'll say this: our next surprise is going to come on Saturday. I don't want to give too much information. I don't want people to start to decode it, but we're going to make another surprise announcement this week. So looking forward to that one as well.
That set a bunch of wheels to turn in there Saturday. What's going on Saturday? But
Right.
When would you anticipate having the entire class informed?
I'll tell you, I'd love to have it in the next couple of weeks. Realistically, part of doing the surprise announcements means that you're a little bit dependent upon other people's schedules. So we've had some that have run into March, and we may have a couple that run into March this year. Obviously, we want to get the word out as soon as we can because the banquet is set. It's July 19th at the Omni in Nashville. That date gets a little closer every day. And so we want to make sure that, we've rolled out the entire class in enough time for people to make plans and not have conflicts when the date finally gets announced for them. So it's a bit of a, cat and mouse where it's, how many of these can we do in person? How many of these can we make a big splash on versus, if someone's really far out of state, making sure that, we just give them the heads up before we announce it publicly. We've had to do that a couple times. And so, but I'd love to get it done in the next couple of weeks. The class was only voted on, I want to say January the 8th. So we're still inside of a month of finding out, who the names officially were. And so my first challenge was let's hit the ground running and get to as many spots in the state as we can get to. And, so far we've been able to coordinate some days and times that have kind of pulled together really nicely. And we've been able to lay out over half the class so far.
Yeah. Like you said, 14 rolled out to this point. Chris Woodruff, Deion Grant, Doug Matthews, Derek Mason. We talked about that one on the show last week. former Memphis kicker Stephen Goskowski, Larry Keenan, a Memphis State basketball legend,
That's right.
Priscilla Gary Sweeney, the late Ronnie Robinson, the late Philip Clark, Tony Allen of Grit and Grind fame, former Ole Miss standout. That's where I remember him from, but he played his high school ball in Knoxville. Elston Turner, George Pitts, who coached at Science Hill and Brentwood Academy and is currently at Providence Academy up in East Tennessee, and Bob Brown are your current announced members of the 2025 Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame induction class. Of those, who were you most pleased with getting as only you can?
Well, I'll tell you, one that was really fun was Tony Allen. Tony, who you mentioned, really epitomized the grit and grind era in Memphis with the Grizzlies. He does a weekly radio show, kind of a streamed radio show with Grind City Media in Memphis. He does it every Tuesday, and so we knew we'd have an opportunity to kind of ambush him, if you will. And so so that one worked out really well, but it accompanied nicely the fact that the Grizzlies the day before were hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you mentioned Ole Miss standout Elston Turner, who's from Knoxville, played his basketball in high school at Austin East. He's a proud road runner, and he is part of the coaching staff for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so I reached out to Grizzlies contacts, and they put me in touch with the Timberwolves, and their coaching staff was gracious enough to invite me into the locker room before tip-off, and I got to break the news to the entire Minnesota Timberwolves basketball team and Elston Turner, who had no idea this was coming, and really probably had no idea why I was there until I said, I'm from Tennessee. I want to welcome you to Tennessee, and you probably know there's a Tennessean on your staff here, and that's Elston Turner. They all call him ET. And at that moment, you kind of saw him, light up like, this is about me, right? So we were able to announce that in front of the players, and he was able to smile and say, hey, I used to be able to get after it pretty good, fellas. So
he did used to be able to get after it pretty good. I remember when I was in high school, and Wade probably can't appreciate this, Brad, you may be able to, but they would wheel televisions into the cafeteria during the Southeastern Conference tournament. And I remember a game and he was just going off, and I didn't want to go back to class. I'm not sure I did go back to class, but yeah, that's the era that I remember him from, more than obviously from his high school days or what he did after. But yeah, that dude could play.
He really could. And one of the interesting things that happens sometimes is, you induct people and you find out, as you go through that process, that maybe they're not in the greatest of health. Coach Philip Clark from Bartlett coached at Germantown for a lot of years and coached at Bartlett and was the athletics director for Bartlett City Schools. We selected him in January. I start reaching out to people who make nominations once they make it. And I was told at the time he's not doing very well. He had a long bout with cancer. And so I was able to actually call he and his wife and talk to them and let him know that he was being inducted. And sadly, Coach Clark passed away a couple of weeks ago. And so, we're looking forward to having his family there and honor their husband, their dad, and their grandfather in a special way. Really, like I said, very sad and unfortunate. But family and friends were pleased that, he was able to appreciate the news before he passed. And so, Coach Clark, we'll definitely, honor him at the banquet that night.
Yeah. Slay, I think with the passage of time, folks may not realize just how impactful he was. 2003 SEC Player of the Year, averaged 21 points, almost 8 rebounds. And as you all have put in your release, known for his energy, toughness, and scoring ability, Slay became a fan favorite and helped lead the Vols to multiple NCAA tournament appearances. You probably should have said became a UT fan favorite, because in about, at that time, I guess 11 other arenas, he was the guy that you love to hate, I think.
Yes. Yes. And he embraced it. He embraced that role.
Absolutely.
He was one of those players that you really could only appreciate him if he was, on your team, because he absolutely was the type of player that, if he was not on your team, you hated to see him come into your gym. I had somebody tell me that yesterday, who is a Vanderbilt fan, said he's on my all-time Mount Rushmore of players who I loved to hate, and you're right. And you talk about, his career at Tennessee. He played for 4 years. He battled through an ACL tear, came back, and then that senior season under Buzz Peterson was just a dominant player. Led Tennessee in scoring something like 24 out of 27 games or something like that. I mean, just had a season where he was absolutely on fire. Played professionally overseas, and came back, and he's giving back now through the community, but he's hosting radio shows, and he's on the SEC network, and really seems to have found a great kind of place for the way that he embraces the game. People really love him, and he's one of those guys that we could see it in our social media and things like that. Just the amount of people who were really excited for him getting the chance to go in.
2017 SEC basketball legend, recognized at the SEC tournament that year, and he's on the he was named to UT's all-century basketball team. So he's definitely one of the greats in the orange and white. Yeah, how long? Walk us through the process from nomination to inductee, Brad.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we accept nominations year round, and we accept them from, former teammates or a former coach, or really anyone from the general public who wishes to make a nomination. We typically start our nomination process in late November or early December, and each region of the state, we have 6 board directors, if you will, and so they comprise the nomination committee in each region. And so East Tennessee being a great example, with so many All-Americans and different athletes that have come through the University of Tennessee, but also, Chattanooga, East Tennessee State, and, countless other schools and organizations, that list is pretty lengthy. And so we've got to chop a list that I believe started at somewhere around 75 people this year. You got to chop that list down to about 10, which is no easy task. And so you'll have someone who gets nominated, and, maybe they won't make it through on the first year. And sometimes that just comes down to number restrictions. Sometimes it comes down to, too many athletes in one sport. There are all kinds of different considerations. But clearly, if you've gotten a nomination where someone's thought enough of you to nominate you for the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, you're deserving, and you're going to receive, a look and a lot of consideration there. So that process of paring down a number from like 75 to nearly, 10 is a tough process. So if you get inducted, or you get nominated, I should say, you're in the system for 5 years on that nomination, because it's really rare for someone to go in on the first year. So all 3 divisions kind of pick their groups, and we have a group that are kind of protected candidates, and then a group that are at-large candidates. Once those all kind of end up in the pool, we have a full board meeting, and they try to narrow that pool down to our final number. And so there's a lot of debate, and it's a lot of interesting conversation. I've really marveled at the amount of effort that our board of directors puts in every year to make sure that they're considering every angle, and, making sure that the whole state is represented well. So it's a great process that we go through, and it's painful, because you understand that if you put in 12 people, then, nominees 13, 14, 15, 16, I mean, those you are really splitting hairs. So it's, you really want to put an asterisk beside somebody's name when they're, 13, 14, or 15 on the list, and say, hey, when we start this process next year, they really need to be at the top of our list. And so a lot of times that happens. And, we do want to make sure that, we're paying attention to those trends. And if people are missing the cut by just a little, they shouldn't fall to the back of the list the next year.
Brad, as you kind of get that list finalized and hand out the official bids per se or announcements, between then and July, then what's going on with you as you kind of get prepped for the big event coming up on the 19th?
Well, we've got so many things going right now, it'll make your head spin, but it's all good stuff, right? Because we've got the banquet on July 19th. We have a fall golf tournament that we're, working on putting together. And then right now, the organization is in this period of transition because we're getting ready to open a new museum at the new Titan Stadium when it opens in January or February of 2027. So we're going through the process of renderings and design and, trying to go through the process of what stories are we going to tell? How can we properly honor, over 550 inductees and a list that will grow, over the next, 10 to 20 years that we would hope that we're part of that, new Nissan Stadium setup. So, we're really getting ready to roll out a lot of information on the new museum and what that's going to be like and how people can support us and how people can be a part of it. So a lot of it will be logistics for the banquet, making sure that everyone who's inducted is, able to attend and be a part of it and that they've got all the information they need. We'll do a television special that will air in July that will honor this group. So there's a lot of things that we'll be working on between now and July. And like I said, all of them really exciting and positive for the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame.
Hey, one of the last times you visited with us, Brad, you said that in that period of transition, a decent amount of items were currently maybe stashed at your your house, I suppose, or your garage. Is that still kind of the case? Have you started making plans? Do you have a little small shrine set up at your house?
I don't have the shrine set up. I was able to move a lot of it into official storage.
Okay.
And so that's been really helpful. It really is amazing, the items that, it's a funny story. And when I first took over for the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, there was a period of transition there before I came on board. And when I first went into my office, I started looking through some things, and I had a suitcase and I had a cardboard box, and neither one of them had been opened. And so I opened the cardboard box, and it was Peyton Manning's helmet from the University of Tennessee that was on loan from Tennessee. Literally, the FedEx Orange Bowl logo is on the helmet. It's from the last game he ever wore at Tennessee. And then in the suitcase, inside a satin bag, inside the suitcase was a Lombardi trophy on loan from Kippy Brown. And so the things that come into museums and the way that they're sometimes packed away would surprise you. But when you open a cardboard box and find Peyton Manning's helmet, and then you open a little roller suitcase and find a Lombardi trophy, those are fun days. So none of those things made it to the Willis household.
The Kippy Brown Lombardi came at the expense of Peyton Manning to bring that forward.
That's right.
Even more full circle.
That's right. It was Seahawks over Broncos. That's correct.
Wow.
So those, there are some great artifacts that I can't wait to get back into rotation, that get back in front of people. And like I said, sometimes it's funny how those will get to you. But they're special and they're precious, and they all tell a story of people who've left their mark on the state of Tennessee through sports. And so we're proud to be a part of that.
Yeah. That would have been a great comment to end this segment on, but I need to ask you, you said that those items were on loan from X, and you get a lot of stuff loaned to you from X. When you rotate that stuff out, is it returned to them then?
It is. Yeah. And that's part of, when I first took over, it was let's make sure that we're, documenting everything that comes in and out the door so that no one says, 5 years later, hey, where's my so-and-so, right? Sometimes people will come to you and they say, here's a medal, from a track and field event that I won. And I'd much rather you have it and put it on display all the time than ever return it to me. So we go from a loan agreement to a donation, right? And then sometimes, you know, you induct someone and, you know, for example, class of 2025, and you say, we'd like to present this or put this on exhibit, you know, from 2025 until 2026. And so when that time's up, you rotate it out and you make sure it gets back to them in the same shape that they gave it to you. You know, we want to be respectful. You know, a lot of times it's funny. A lot of times people who accomplish a lot have a garage full of things that they can never figure out a way to, you know, display in their home. And those you'd be amazed at some of the items because, you know, just a typical fan would see that and say, oh my goodness, this has to be out, you know, in front of people. And so, you know, we want to make sure that if people do us the honor of loaning something that we can show off to the general public, that we take care of it. And then when we're done, we get it back to them. And, you know, occasionally they put enough trust in us where they say, this is where we want it to stay forever. And so we'll definitely hold on to those kinds of things too.
Brad Willis, Executive Director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. 14 of 2025 inductees have been announced. The latest, former Pearl Cone and former Tennessee basketball standout Ron Slay. Again, the induction ceremony will take place Saturday, July 19th at the Omni Nashville downtown. Make plans to attend. Brad, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and we'll certainly be reaching back out to you at some point here over the next bit, maybe before you get everything wrapped up, maybe once you get everything wrapped up, but want to get your input on the entire class here at some point. So,
well, it's always great to come on with you guys, and I always appreciate the invite. So thanks for having me.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Brad.
When we continue here on Top 5 Tuesday on Main Street Sports today, let's talk a little football of the professional variety. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Hey guys, Wade Neely here, one half of Main Street Sports today, reminding you that Zoolumination continues right here at the Nashville Zoo. It's the nation's largest outdoor lantern festival. Some impressive stuff that has something for everybody here in the Music City. So again, Zoolumination rolling along all the way through February 9th. Make sure you grab your tickets now.
We continue Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Sunday, Eagles, Chiefs in New Orleans for the Lombardi Trophy. And as is typically the case, started the week with a press conference with Roger Goodell, NFL commissioner. He spoke on a number of topics, one of which was the state of officiating. He kind of addressed the ongoing concern, I guess, that the Chiefs have benefited from some officiating and that the NFL is scripted. Quote, I think a lot of those theories are things that happen in social media and they get a new life. As you say, it's not your theory, but it's out there. Nobody wants it to be their theory. I understand it. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion. That's a ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our game better at all times? You know, I don't know, Wade, but I think, you know, what else is the commissioner of the National Football League going to say to that?
Right.
It is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't think there's any way that something like that could happen. But, you know, he's not going to do anything other than deny it, I don't think, whether it does or not. So I'm not exactly sure that accomplishes anything even.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of standard company line, right? You kind of got to say that you uphold the sanctity of the league and you try and put out any fires or dampen them. Somebody, and it was interesting too that he mentioned that because at one of the last questions or last statements last night, we joked about the media day circus yesterday, but Travis Kelce took it upon himself and he asked the media directly. He said, "Hey, why do you guys kind of keep bringing up the referee situation? Can we not just put this to rest?" But I mean, it is social media fodder. It is traditional media fodder, and it's kind of just, you know, morphed into this wild story and subplot. But yeah, if you're Goodell, I mean, props, I suppose, in a sense, for bringing it up. If you had not mentioned it, it might have kind of fanned the flames a little more. But there really isn't a ton you can say other than, yeah, the company line of, hey, this is silly. You guys are just purely concocting and inventing these stats out of thin air. You know, surely, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Also spoke to talk of an 18-game regular season, said that they have not spoken with the NFLPA on that, but he has had informal discussions with Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell Jr. Said there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, is 18, how much is too much? And I guess the answer for the NFL is there's no such thing as too much, but it just feels like oversaturation. And, you know, we saw the situation earlier this year where you had teams playing on Saturday and on Wednesday to accommodate the Christmas holiday, different things like that. And then out of the other side of the mouth, the NFL talks about player safety. And I just don't know how that can be safe playing on that short a turnaround.
Yeah, there'll have to be some concessions, it feels like. And we saw it, you know, with the reduction of one preseason game already. I feel like that sweet spot, players and staff and everybody kind of maybe would go for this. Drop the number of preseason down to 2. Yeah, if you increase it to 18, but throw in that double bye. And it feels like that second bye week is really, really the coveted kind of piece of this angle. And I think as much as you don't necessarily want to play 18 games, if you're a player, having that extra bye would at least, you know, and obviously reducing the other preseason game, would at least kind of get you on board with it. I don't think that anybody really wants to be trotting out there for that many and then slogging through the postseason. But that extra bye week, I think, would certainly go a long way if that's the direction you choose.
I think you almost have to go with that second bye week if you're going to extend the season to 18 games. I mean, that takes up a heck of a footprint on the calendar, though, when you do that. But I think that's got to be the case. Just again, if player safety is any kind of a concern at all. So certainly will be worth keeping an eye on. Whatever the schedule does, I don't think it changes for 25, and Andy Reid says he will be back for it. Last night, Chiefs owner Clark Hunt said that Andy Reid would be back for his 13th season. Reid confirmed that earlier today. He will be 67 next month. Only the Raiders' Pete Carroll is older, but he's not chasing anything, he says. He's not motivated by becoming the all-time winningest coach. He is 4th all-time in regular season wins with 273, 55 behind Don Shula. Said he's not chasing that. He's not trying to surpass Bill Belichick. He said, I just enjoy teaching. I don't get caught up much in the stats or the records. I enjoy being around the guys. I enjoy football, the game. You can't put in the hours we do and not enjoy it. I love the game. So Andy Reid is back. Mahomes is back. So, I mean, regardless of what happens Sunday, you feel like the Chiefs are going to be in the mix yet again next year.
Yeah, I mean, wild to think about that Reid. Man, I go back and forth with him. On some days, I look at Andy Reid, I'm like, yeah, he looks like a spry young man. And then some days I'm like, man, how old is this guy? But he's a football guy through and through. And, yeah, he has certainly obviously landed. 18 of those wins have come during his run here in Kansas City. And obviously they've had the utmost success at the big game. Wasn't able to punch through in Philadelphia, but certainly has made up for it in KC. So he's a football guy. It feels like football guys are just destined to do what they love. I don't know that he would want to do anything else, right? I mean, if you take away football, what else does that guy have? He doesn't strike me as the guy that is just going to just kick back in Cabo and enjoy the rest of his life. He wants to be around the game.
He kind of feels like a modern day John Madden to some degree, just a football guy, like you said. So yeah, it'll be worth watching to see just how far he does go before he finally steps down, and obviously it'll be seismic when he does.
Also, not stepping away while he's got Mahomes under center feels like the right move too. I don't know a lot about football, but that feels like a smart play on his behalf.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it more than once on this show. It is a quarterback-driven league, and so if you've got one, you've got a leg up on a lot of folks. And when you've got that one in particular, you've definitely got a leg up. So ride that out as long as you can, I reckon. Philadelphia and the Rams are supposed to play in Australia in 2026. It would be the first regular season game over there, should it take or when it takes place. Again, it's scheduled for October of 2026. Eagles coach Jeff Lurie says we'll only do it if we are the visiting team. He does not want to give up one of their 9 home games in Philadelphia that year. So, a little hardball.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that, right? And that's where some franchises land. We see the Jaguars on the other end. They're content to give all their home games away to play international as much as they want. But yeah, props, for saying, hey, we want to play our game. We want to play as many as you're going to give us at home. Why would we travel to Australia or anywhere internationally when it's going to be at the expense of a home game?
And this kind of brings it full circle to what we were talking about, Wade, with the 18 games and the second bye and that kind of thing. Because as much as everybody's being asked to play internationally these days and everything that goes into that, the logistics, the travel and everything, that second bye week really becomes even more imperative with that, I would think. So that's, like you said, maybe that's the trade-off for 18 games is that second bye week, and maybe that makes it a little bit more palatable if you get that. So
I think so. And, Goodell even touched on it. He sprinkled just a little bit of juice out there yesterday for us too, said they're not closing the door or reiterated, they wouldn't mind having an international team. And then even threw it out there, with that, yeah, we'd like to host the Super Bowl internationally. So they're not looking to just take over the U.S. They're looking to move to take it worldwide. And this is the international games, have kind of been the launching spot. But that was interesting hearing Goodell say that yesterday.
Going global. Hour number 1 of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the books. When we return for hour number 2, We'll be joined by the Blue Raider voice, the pride of the dimple, Chip Walters. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Dr. WILLIS, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Hour number 2 of the Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. I'm Maurice Patton here in Main Street Murray headquarters in Columbia. That is Wade Neely at his home. And we are joined, speaking of Columbia, by one of Columbia's finest, the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. No, you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you. What's going on?
Well, we're making the turn. We finished the front 9 and ready to play the back 9 in Conference USA basketball. One race is about as tight as it can get. And on the women's side, and that would be the men's side that's really tight. The women's side, it's kind of like right now you have 2 that are tied at the top. Even though Middle has beaten Liberty, they would have the tiebreaker. But those 2 have broken out like Secretariat in the Belmont Stakes.
Big gap.
Big gap.
Huge gap. Absolutely. Yep. Let's talk about the tight one first, because you've got 8 teams within 2 games of each other.
And a 6-way tie for third. How about that?
That's oof. Fortunately, again, we're just at the turn. We're not done. So nobody out in Frisco has to start dealing with tiebreakers and that kind of thing yet.
That's correct. And Jacksonville State, who Middle has beaten already this year, sits alone in first place at 7-2. Middle sits alone in second place at 6-3. Well, those two hook up Thursday night down in Jacksonville, Alabama, in a match for first place. Middle trying to get the sweep over Jack State this year. Then you've got Liberty, Louisiana Tech, UTEP, Western Kentucky, and Kennesaw, all at 5-4 in conference play. Now, if the season ended today and you were seeding the teams, Louisiana Tech, who was picked to win the conference, would be the number 8 seed right now in the conference tournament due to tiebreakers and all that, if you went by that as of today. But they would also be the number 8 seed with and would have 16 wins under their belt. So it's it's kind of crazy when you look at it and see everything. Liberty right now is in that 6-way tie, but they have the highest net ranking of anybody in the league. There's only one that is past, that is 200 plus, and that's FIU, and they're tied with Sam Houston at 1-8. And as I was talking to Nick McDevitt last night on his radio show, nobody wants to play either FIU or Sam Houston, and somehow they've only managed 1 win apiece. It is as good, Mo, as I have seen Conference USA during our tenure, from as far as from top to bottom, and as competitive as it is. And right now, Conference USA in the net rankings is the number 9 ranked league in the country, which has them ahead of the American, has them ahead of the Sun Belt, the MAC, Mountain West is ahead of them, but well ahead of the Ohio Valley Conference right now, and also ahead of the Missouri Valley. So it is as good a year as Conference USA has had in a while, and a lot of it goes back to non-conference scheduling. It has gotten much better. This is the second year of the WAC Conference USA Challenge, where everybody in Conference USA plays 2 WAC teams that should be of similar stature to yourself. And Conference USA handled that very, very well this year, and that kind of put them, kind of gave them a jump start, got them in a good spot in the net. And now you've got if your bottom level teams are higher, when you play them, it doesn't hurt you as bad. So it's been I would say that the folks in the conference office have kind of liked what they've seen, and it sure does look like it's going to be absolute craziness down in Huntsville for the conference tournament.
I was just getting ready to say, Chip, if you're in the conference office, you got to be loving 2 scenarios. You either want one league where the blue blood that makes the most money is your bell cow every year, or you just want top to bottom pandemonium. And it seems like we certainly are streaking toward the latter this year.
Yeah, right now you are. And I was looking at the schedule for this week. Like you said, Thursday night, you've got a first place battle with Middle and Jacksonville State. Middle's either going to bring Jacksonville State back to the pack, or they will have a 2-game lead on everybody once Thursday night is over. Sam Houston and FIU, somebody's going to kick their way out of the basement on that game. Western Kentucky goes to Kennesaw. Kennesaw, until last week, had not lost a home game all year. Jacksonville State still has not lost a home game all year. And then you've got Louisiana Tech on Thursday night, preseason picked to win the league, and again, mired in that 6-way tie for third. They will go to Liberty, who was picked second in the league and who has the highest net ranking of anybody in the conference. So that'll be interesting. So Thursday night will be will be a really interesting night around the conference, and because there could be a good bit of movement just from Thursday night, and then on Saturday, trying to look at what are the key matchups. Western and Jacksonville State, Middle and Kennesaw, and then you've got UTEP and New Mexico State for a rematch of what was a game earlier this year. UTEP had a sellout at the Don Haskins Center, 12,000, and New Mexico State came in and beat them by 30. And I don't think anybody thinks that New Mexico State is 30 better than UTEP. But that's the way the cookie crumbled that night. But it's going to be an interesting week.
And Chip, as you talk about how competitive Conference USA has been this year, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, a rising tide lifts all boats, as they say, and this makes everybody better. But on the other hand, there are no walkovers, there are no gimmies. You got to go out and get it every night. And if you slip up at the wrong time, it can really be costly trying to get back up.
That's right. Well, and last week, Middle lost Thursday night at home. Did not have Isam Mustafa available. Lose to New Mexico State, who in New Mexico State won by 4, I think, and New Mexico State, then they went to Western and lost by 30. Well, Western beat UTEP by 4, and then they come to Middle, and Middle beats them by 4. So a lot of times matchups. I think what this year shows is matchups mean so much, and I mean that can include style of play, personnel, you name it. Going back to the game against New Mexico State, Middle got stops on 10 of the last 11 New Mexico State possessions, got the game to 2, and then had the ball 5 times and could not score to tie or get the lead. So it was Middle made a huge run to get it to 2, but could not get the game tied or get the lead. They spent the first part of the game kind of looking around over their shoulder. Okay, is Isam going to walk through that door somewhere? Well, he didn't on Thursday night, but I don't know if I've ever seen a kid more uncomfortable because he was not in a game and felt bad that he was injured. But he came back, had a double-double on Saturday. And, you talk about some crazy lines. Stat lines. Isam had 16 points or 17 points and 11 rebounds, his 10th double-double of the year, 47th double-double of his career. Jalen Counter, 5 threes, 21 points. And then Cam Weston takes the cake, 0 points, 14 assists.
Helper mode.
Yeah.
He was so busy passing that he didn't have time to shoot, right?
That's right. And I ran into him after the game. I said, $1.40. And he goes, what? And Counter was walking right behind him. He goes, Cam, you got 14 dimes, $1.40. So, and he goes, oh, good one.
Chip Walters, the voice of the Blue Raiders, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, as he typically does on Tuesdays, except when
Unless
he doesn't.
I don't.
Yeah, there you go. We talked about the men's shakeout here. The women, like you said, are pretty much where they are expected to be this time of the year. You don't have to look very far down the Conference USA standings to find the Lady Raiders.
No, 8-1 right now, along with Liberty, and Middle had a 20-plus point victory over Liberty the first weekend of the regular season. And those two schools have a 2-game lead over Western, a 3-game lead over FIU, and a 4-game lead over Louisiana Tech and New Mexico State going into the second matchups with everybody else. So, and Middle and Liberty won't play again until the final week of the regular season, and that will be in Lynchburg, Virginia. So, right now you don't see anything in the way of Middle getting to that game with anything really more than one loss. I mean, obviously anything can happen, and we almost saw anything happen last Thursday at New Mexico State, but the Blue Raiders were able to get an overtime win there. And
did not expect that, by the way.
but they had a chance to win it in regulation, missed a chippy, and but came back and really opened up a can in overtime and won going away, and then had a cruise control win at UTEP on Saturday. And Anastasia Boldreva yet again wins Conference Player of the Week as she dominated both in the paint and on the glass.
When you say won it again, I mean, she's kind of pointed toward Player of the Year, is she not?
I would say I would say the smart money right now would go on her for that. She is almost, and I'm just off the top of my head here, I'm saying she's almost won it more times during the conference season than she hasn't won it. So
stepping up when it matters.
Yeah, I would say, and and every player goes through little stretches in the season, and she had hers, but I think now she's really, they're doing a good job of getting her the ball in positions to score. And that took some work as well. Tamia Scott, has continued to come on. Jalen Gregory, when she has her great nights shooting the basketball, she's now the all-time 3-point maker at Middle. When they have all those three major pieces going, and Courtney Blakely is got the good vision going and distributing the basketball, they're really tough to beat. And Anastasia, just by sheer maturity and growth, she's become a stronger player in the post. Her first year, just physical strength and trying to play through contact was tough for her a little bit, but she's come a long way, and she has taken coaching well, and they've coached her hard, and so she's she, like you said, she is right now on track. She would be the odds-on favorite to be the Conference USA Player of the Year. And when you think about that, on the men's side, you've got, I think Justin Porter is going to be one of those guys who will be in the conversation, if not for Player of the Year, for a second straight year being first team all conference. So along with Isam Mustafa, they've both put up great numbers this year.
Chip, I wanted to ask you, we were talking about the Lady Raiders there, and as we kind of roll along, it feels like we know what they're certainly capable of, and we certainly have seen what they have done. I guess I'm curious, what else does Coach Rick maybe have up his sleeve as far as tapping into an extra? Does this team still have an extra gear in your mind that they could push to if they need?
I think he will always tell you that they do, and I think part of that might be to be and this is going to sound crazy a little bit, but to be an overall better, more consistent 3-point shooting basketball team. They've been a little streaky, and like we talk about Jalen Gregory, who, when she is right, is as good as there is in the country. But she's also had nights where she's been 1 for 9. Mm-hmm. And I think if, to be able to get to that consistent level from 3 makes them a different basketball team.
That's what I'm always fascinated by. We kind of know what we're going to get with those ladies, but man, it does feel like they're always coaching toward, yes, winning the league is obviously great. Yes, winning the tournament is great, but it feels like they're always got a touch of loftier ambitions. And so I'm always curious what they're working on.
Well, I mean, from day one, when he took the job, Rick Insell said his goal was to get Middle Tennessee in the Final Four. And, they've they had a team that made a run last year, beat Louisville, and really had LSU on the ropes for a while before it was determined that the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark matchup needed to happen.
The memo came in. Yeah,
the memo came in, and that ended things there. But I think they certainly got they got the nation's attention. As a matter of fact, there's a documentary that's being, we talked about it. If you think back last, July, August, when NCAA March Madness was in town, shooting a lot of video. It was middle Iowa State, and two others, maybe USC, UCLA. Can't remember exactly who the four were, but there were four schools that they were going around. Well, now all of that is being put together in a documentary, and don't ask me where it is available. I'm sure that GoBlueRaiders.com and the Lady Raider socials will have that info out there. But I did see a trailer or a teaser for that full documentary with those four teams, and obviously it's being timed to be released here right near the end of the regular season, going into March Madness, and we're a week into February now, just about. So I think that will be one more thing that's going to lift them at least into the national consciousness for as we move closer to postseason.
You've got a Hall of Fame coach at the top of that program. You've got a program that just came off of an NCAA tournament victory last year, on the road in a pretty hostile environment. They pushed another team to the very brink on their home court, as you said. And, I would think Middle Tennessee State is a compelling story on a national level as you head toward this year's NCAA. So it'll be interesting and I think that's a great pull on their part to include MTSU in something like that with that backstory. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on.
That Coach Insel has he has almost cringed at the phrase, mid-major power. He says, he doesn't necessarily like to be classified as a mid-major. He thinks that they are a power program, and that's where he wants people to think of them as, and they've put themselves in that position.
Absolutely. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. Chip, Groundhog Day luncheon did not take place on Groundhog Day.
No, it did
took
not.
place a couple of days early. We know what the menu was because it never changes, but how was it? How was the turnout?
Great turnout. I think we were just over 500 participants at the Student Union building. And it was, it seemed to go very smooth this year. We got the program started on time, got everybody out on time. Coach Jerry Myers, very comfortable in his role. And the players did their part. We had a nice Q&A with the coaching staff and three players, including Eston Snyder, and it was fun to bring up to him. He is very close to a very dubious record in middle baseball. He is 11 away from having the record for being hit by pitches more than anyone. So, but that just shows that he's definitely all in. And so he just says, I asked him about it during the Q&A session, and he said, I just got to do what I got to do to find my way on base. And, whatever Coach Nichols, our hitting coach, and whatever he asked me to do, he goes, sometimes that means, lean in a little bit because, sometimes that might be what you need to break a slump or whatever. But, there's a lot of new faces. 23 of the 40 men on the roster are new to the program this year. A lot of new arms that they're very excited about. This will tell you a little bit about some of the new guys, Mo. They have 5 captains on the baseball team that were nominated and elected by the players. 2 of the 5 captains are new faces
Oh, wow.
to the program, which I think that says a lot about the character that they have brought in to this program. And now they're 10 days away right now from the home opener and the season opener against Bowling Green next Friday at Reese Smith Field. And, you know, that will really be an interesting weekend to see, you know, a lot of those new arms, to see who is going to be in the opening weekend rotation for starters, who is finding, you know, spots out of the bullpen. That all of that kind of stuff will work itself out, and you know, and there's going to be a lot of competition for those spots. So I think there's a lot of excitement, and you're in a league that's got a real power team in Dallas Baptist. They're picked to win the league, and they're a top 12 team in the country in the preseason rankings. But you know, with the transfer portal and everything else, it's hard to put a lot of stock in rankings in any sport anymore.
How long into real quick, Chip? How long into the season you think for some of those spots to shake out, whether it's in the bullpen or in the lineup, in your mind?
Well, I know they want it. Those first 3 weekends, you're playing non-conference competition, and from the time that I think they would really like to make sure that when it comes time for the conference opening weekend, that they are pretty solid in those spots, and that will start on. Let me see here. I had it pulled up. It will be March the 8th, I think. I've got it right here, and that will be against. No, it's after that. It's going to be March 21st, and that will be. And by the way, middle draws Dallas Baptist the first weekend out of the gate in the conference in conference play down in Dallas, Texas. Get it out of the way. But before that, you've got a series with UAB, you've got a series with Oakland, a series with Fairleigh Dickinson, a series with Bowling Green, and then you've got a couple of round robin weekends where you play UT Martin, St. Bonaventure, Old Dominion. You got non-conference home and home with Austin Peay, and you got a road game at Alabama. So by the time you get to the conference opener against Dallas Baptist in March, you should have a pretty good feel on what you got.
You know, Middle always has a strong mid-state contingent, and this year no different, but particularly a couple of Murray County products. Freshman Connor Bowden coming in from your alma mater, Columbia Central, and I'm telling you what I know, that kid can go get it. And Brian Baranek is a junior right-hander from Columbia Academy, and he's had some moments in Murfreesboro. I would imagine both those guys are going to be folks to watch this spring.
I would say you're right. And over the years, you think about how good the mid-state has been to middle baseball, and in particular, Rutherford County schools, Williamson County schools, Murray County schools.
Mm-hmm.
You've got an Ensworth kid this year. And by the way, our buddy Jason Maxwell was the winner of the Railbird jacket at this year's Groundhog Day luncheon. He was back on campus, which was great to see him. Which still my favorite Major League Baseball moment was being in the ballpark to see him get his first big league hit, and it was at Wrigley Field.
We were both there for that, actually.
Yeah.
And I managed to make it down to the clubhouse afterwards, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I came to see you hit your first home run." So
yeah, what a day! I mean, because we saw Sammy Sosa hit number 59 that day, and then and got to see Jason get his first big league hit, which was a home run to left center.
It's crazy.
Yep,
it is. Chip, anything we've missed?
What was it? There was one. Oh, we're just about a week away from Blue Bloods in the round, and we can talk more about this next Tuesday. But it is a songwriters night and it's going to be held at the Humble Baron at Nearest Green Distillery, and it features several MTSU alums who are songwriters in the country music business. This is all going to benefit the NIL fund at MTSU, and a late add to that group was Mike Reed, who Mike wrote, among many other hits, Mike wrote Stranger in My House that Ronnie Millsap made a big hit. But the interesting story about Mike Reed is he played football at Penn State and was an all-pro defensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. And when his football career ended, he moved to Nashville, went into songwriting, and has been wildly successful putting pen to paper instead of pinning his ears back going after quarterbacks.
It's disgusting to have that much talent.
It is. It is an embarrassment of wealth.
No doubt. Hey, real quick, National Signing Day for football tomorrow.
Glad you asked that. I talked to Derek Mason last night.
Thank you.
He dropped by the basketball radio shows to kiss a few babies and shake hands and visit with
Not the
folks.
other way around. That's good.
And but he came up during a commercial. I said, what about Wednesday? What are you going to do? He goes, I said, how many are you going to sign? He goes, probably one. And he said, that we all can remember how big the February signing date was.
Right.
But he goes, it's become an afterthought following the December signing date and the portal opening in December. So what will happen is on tomorrow or Thursday, they will release the entire roster as it is before the next portal opening that comes in April. But you also, on Thursday, the full football schedule will be announced. But he's excited about what he's got right now. But he said, it's really taken a lot of the steam out of the February signing date. And the other question, again, we're just kind of sitting there shooting it during a commercial break. I said, when would you like to see the portal or the portal open? And his thought was that it's got to be after the bowl games and in January. And then he, and I wish I'd written it down, but he talked about how, and he's talked about this before, how spring practice is going to change. It's going to be different here pretty soon. Now you've got 25 days to get in 15 practices or something like that. But he thinks it's going to turn into a series of OTAs instead of a full spring practice. He just feels like that's the way it's going with how you fit the portal in there. And so, I think we'll see some of those changes sooner rather than later.
Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chip, as always, we appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
Talk to you fellas.
All right.
Thank you, Chip.
See you, boys.
When we continue here on Top 5 Tuesday, we'll get into the grab bag, and our final segment is Top 5 Tuesday. Wade and I will bring you our most memorable pro sports trades. So stick around after this.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Getting into the grab bag. Let's start with a little women's basketball news. We've talked about Vanderbilt freshman Michaela Blakes and her big performance last Thursday night down in Gainesville. 53 points in the Commodore women's win over Florida. She is, again, the only NCAA Division I player, men's or women's, to score 50 or more in a game this season. And that performance was good enough to earn her Associated Press National Women's College Basketball Player of the Week this week over Notre Dame's Hannah Hidalgo. Hidalgo scored 30 points or more in wins over Virginia Tech and Louisville. So Ms. Blake's in some pretty high cotton with this National Player of the Week when earlier this year she was named National Freshman of the Week. So this encompasses all classes and just continues to show where she and where that program are right now. Again, tough loss Sunday against visiting Ole Miss, and she had 16 in that one, but averaged 34.5 points in 2 games last week and continuing to earn accolades and attention on a national level.
Yeah, job well done, and honors, like you said, getting them at the freshman level, but now also at the national level, regardless of classification. She's kind of approaching household name territory for everybody across the country.
Yeah, and, that's great for Vanderbilt. And obviously, I think the job that Shay Ralph has done kind of reviving that program is starting to get notice. And as they continue to get, notoriety nationally, both as players and as a team, that just continues to push that program in the right direction. So again, congratulations to Ms. Blakes and to Coach Ralph and to the Vanderbilt women's basketball program. We mentioned yesterday, Wade, that Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever would play an exhibition game against the Brazilian national team on May 5th on campus at Iowa. Well, on May 2nd, Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky will play an exhibition game at the PMAC, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center on the LSU campus against that same Brazilian team. So this is a nice time for the Brazilians to be in town, I guess.
Yeah, Cardozo gets to go up against her old squad. Has some loose appearances for them, and kind of just putting a little extra, novelty on what would otherwise. I don't know that many folks would be super jazzed up outside of local markets for a preseason game. So a chance to kind of add a little notoriety to it. We saw Asia Wilson go back to South Carolina last year when they played Puerto Rico. We talked about Caitlin, and then now you kind of add Angel and company into this mix here. Good move all around, it feels like, for everybody.
It really does. I mean, it feels like, just continuing to expose the women's professional game and moving it around, getting these teams into some places where they would not necessarily be able to see them in person otherwise. So, going to Baton Rouge for this, going to Iowa City for the Fever, that kind of thing. It's growing the game, exposing the game. It's great stuff. So, that should be a lot of fun for Angel to get back on campus. I think this will be her first time back since, since that weekend that they survived MTSU last year, actually. So should be a lot of fun. What else we got? Oh, Wade, I finally got to watch some Unrivaled last night. They had a couple of games on TNT, I think it was. And one of the things that jumped out to me, other than Ryan Howard can shoot it from anywhere, is they are using the Elam ending. You're familiar with that, aren't you?
Yeah, the old NBA All-Star game that got so much attention.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool. Obviously, it kind of eliminates the hack attack at the end of ball games when teams are trying to get back in it. You've got to get back in it on your own. Whatever the winning team's point total is at the end of the third quarter, they add 11 to that. So if you're down 16, then you got to score 27 as the Vinyl was against the Lunar Moon last night. And the Vinyl didn't quite get there. But I think it's interesting. I think it's really intriguing. Really forces you to get up and down and get some shots up and try to get some stops rather than just hacking and trying to rebound from the free throw line. So I like it. And I guess that's just another innovation on their part as they try to, get some eyes on their game.
No doubt. And I mentioned the All-Star game, but, the G League uses it for when they go to overtime. But this is the wild part that I didn't know. I started wondering. I'm like, well, who the heck is Elam? This is a professor at Ball State. So kudos to Nick Elam, the assistant professor, who comes up with this ending that does promote a little more competitive nature,
right,
no matter what platform it's implemented in.
Yeah, that's Ball State, not Vol State. It's Ball State in Muncie, Indiana, alma mater of one Blaine Bishop, by the way. So yeah,
fire up chips.
UT Martin Hall of Famer Leonard Hamilton announced that he is resigning at the end of the season as men's basketball coach at Florida State. 76-year-old Leonard Hamilton is resigning at Florida State. Not retiring. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's, it's kind of unfortunate because I don't know how much of this is related to the lawsuit that was brought against him by some ex-players over some NIL disputes and that kind of thing. I don't know how much of it has to do with the fact that Florida State is 13-9 right now and 4-7 in ACC play, but this guy's had a heck of a career. Been head coach at Miami, Oklahoma State, and at Florida State. Has won more than 400 games. Also spent a year as a head coach with the Washington Wizards. Things did not go so well that one year, 19-63, but he has really made his mark at the collegiate level. His 434 wins over 22 plus seasons are the most in Florida State history, which is more than Hugh Durham, among others, and the fifth most in Atlantic Coast Conference history. He's behind Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith, Roy Williams, and Maryland's Gary Williams. So that tells you a lot about what he's been able to do in Tallahassee, again, over nearly 23 years. So he'll be stepping down at the end of the season.
Yeah, been doing it a long time, and yeah, you're right. It makes you wonder. Is that the final stop? Is it resignation? Is it retirement? Either way, though, man, that's another long tenured guy that departs. ACC certainly has lost some high profile coaches over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So add another one to the list. I'll be real curious to see what Florida State's direction looks like going forward.
Yeah. Since the end of the 2021 season, Roy Williams, Krzyzewski, Jim Boeheim, Mike Bray from Notre Dame, which they're in the ACC except when they're not, Tony Bennett and Jim Larinaga have all left ACC benches. So with Hamilton's resignation, Clemson's Brad Brownell, in his 15th year at Clemson, would be the ranking coach in the ACC. And nobody else has been with their program more than 10 years. So, and I will tell you, I don't know if Mark had a picture of Coach Hamilton up at any point, but this guy doesn't look 76. So maybe it is a resignation and not a retirement. Maybe maybe he feels like he's got some more gas in the tank.
If he wants to coach, feels like somebody would certainly welcome him in somewhere at whatever kind of level he feels comfortable at. Be fascinating to see if he decides to stick around. It certainly could end up maybe head coaching is not his cup of tea anymore. Maybe, get into kind of that cushy associate head coach role, that kind of mentor for a younger head coach, or just, go into kind of administration too. If he wants to be around the game, he's certainly got the chops and the pedigree to end up on anybody's staff.
Yeah, and to your point, there would certainly be worse folks that you could learn from as well. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. If he winds up on the bench, we'll let you know. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Dick Vitale was supposed to come back for Duke Wake after his battles with cancer. Then he sustained an accident at home and was unable to do so. Well, going to try it again for Duke Clemson Saturday. Hopefully he can make it back behind the mic for that matchup. It's a 5:00 start Central Time on ESPN. Clemson's won 9 of their last 10 as they go into a matchup tonight with visiting Georgia Tech. So could be interesting. Of course,
get a little juice rolling in.
Yeah, you'll need a little juice against number 2 Duke and Connor Flagg. So should be interesting for Brownell and the Tigers, and having Dickie V Mike's side for that one. Ought to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, Duke number 1 first and foremost for Dickie V. But then you throw Cooper Flagg out there, Dickie V's drooling. He's already got some one-liners that he's had, and there's a reason, right? We had broke down his previous assignments. Duke's kind of been that one constant, so he's got some good material. I'm pumped to see what Dickie V rolls out this weekend.
Should be a lot of fun. A dark story that we need to mention regarding men's college basketball. Mississippi Valley State, North Carolina A&T, and Eastern Michigan are kind of under the spotlight, under the microscope. Accounts connected with a gambling ring that is under federal investigation for its participation in 2 NBA betting cases have been tied to unusual wagering activity with those 3 programs. A&T recently suspended 3 players for the nebulous violating team rules. May or may not be related to this investigation. Former Toronto Raptors forward Jonte Porter and former Charlotte Hornets guard Terry Rozier were involved in this investigation. Porter was banned from the NBA. charged with a federal felony. Rozier hasn't been charged yet, but again, is under investigation. And, you never like to see or hear this kind of thing. Eastern Michigan 10-11 on the year. Mississippi Valley was 2-19 before winning a game over at Arkansas Pine Bluff over the weekend. And North Carolina A&T was 5-19. So don't know how much those records had to do with any shady activity, but that's where that is. So,
yeah, you talking about lower tier schools like that. It doesn't take much to set off some alarm bells, and so especially now that everything's digitized. It's one thing if you go to Uncle Mo down the street, and place your wagers. He keeps a little black book, and that's about it. But when you're putting it out on the web, everything is tracked, and it's not hard to find and make some links.
Everything is tracked. In fact, speaking of gambling, word came out yesterday, a Major League umpire, Pat Hoberg, has been fired because he shared his sports gambling accounts with a friend. And to me, that's got to go in quotes, because this guy's no friend if he's betting on your account and you're an umpire. With a friend who bet on baseball games and for intentionally deleting electronic messages pertinent to MLB's investigation of the situation. So you shared your gambling account with a friend who bet on baseball, a sport in which you were employed. Your friend's judgment ain't the greatest, which means your judgment ain't the greatest in friends. That's apparently Hoberg can reapply or can apply for reinstatement next year. But again, I don't know why you would even bring this guy back. It wasn't him that did it, but again, he's kind of guilty of bad decision making at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was even had an account to share, that's kind of the shocking part to me, right? Most of the leagues kind of pretty much have a zero tolerance policy in the sense you're not allowed to do anything. And so the fact he had an account, whether he was sharing it or not, seems kind of the real unusual part of this to me.
Absolutely. Producer Mark says we can roll through this stop sign. So we're going to forego our final break and take you straight to our final segment, Top 5 Tuesday, presented by Mid-South 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Thalos Steel will get you in a better one. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. Mid-South 5 Fitness bringing you our Top 5 Tuesday as Wade and I give you our top 5 most memorable sports trades. And again, this stems from the Lakers and Mavericks midnight move on Saturday night / Sunday morning, moving Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic. So, Wade, the floor is yours.
Man, first one out the gate, I mean, the great one. Wayne Gretzky gets moved in the midst of 4 Stanley Cup championships. This has got to be one of the more memorable ones to me. And so much so that it was the first ever there's been some good ones, but it was the first ever 30 for 30 documentary on this trade as Wayne Gretzky moves to Los Angeles, Edmonton, depending on your love of Canada. I mean, Canada kind of almost tried to intervene here and say, hey, you ain't getting our guy. This was in the midst of Edmonton in 84, 85, 87, and 88. And then poof, he's traded to the Kings. We could have had that was the closest we've ever came to war with Canada in recent memory, I feel like.
No comment. My number one is not a trade. It is 3 trades. The 2021 MLB deadline following Ronald Acuna Jr.'s torn ACL that ended his season in early July. Alex Anthopoulos got Jock Peterson 5 days later from Chicago, but then at the end of the month, he trades for Jorge Soler from Kansas City, Eddie Rosario from Cleveland, and Adam Duvall from Miami. And folks are like, what in the world are you doing? Well, we're winning a world championship. So, that is my number one. 3 trades.
Certainly memorable for you, not as much for this Astros fan, but so I understand.
I'm sorry, Wade.
Hey, don't be sorry. It was your number 1. You got to go number 1 for a reason, partner. Number 2 for me, give me KG to the Celtics, because this was one that, to me, when I heard the news, I kind of felt like, ooh, they're up to something, and ooh, this is going to be a big fit, and kind of the original big 3 in a sense. It's kind of been attempted, hadn't often been successfully as duplicated, but when KG right in the midst of kind of knocking on the doorstep and never getting it done up in Minnesota, poof, he ends up on the Celtics, kind of giving them a new sense of life there. I think KG to the Celtics is certainly got to be a number 1 on my list.
My number 2, and I'm going way back for this one, but at the time of the ABA, the American Basketball Association NBA merger coming into the 76-77 season, Julius Erving was a New York Net, one of 4 teams coming from the ABA into the NBA. Well, the Nets were in some financial straits and traded Erving to Philadelphia. All they did was win a NBA championship that year. And Dr. J became even more of a legend. I mean, he had been a guy that you had heard of if you were keeping up with the ABA, but, you know, the exposure that they got, it was kind of tough. So he gets into the NBA, gets with an established team, wins a world championship, and the rest is history. So Dr. J to Philly is my number 2.
That's a good one. And like you said, alters a lot there in the trajectory of a number of different fronts. Number 3 for me, this one's so big, Mo, it's got its own Wikipedia page. And Herschel Walker trade kind of is the benchmark, so much so that, I mean, this is something that pops up on The Simpsons, right? I mean, it's a pop culture phenomenon. It sets things in motion for the Cowboys to kind of kickstart that massive run. Like I said, any trade that's big enough to have its own full-blown Wikipedia page has got to be memorable enough. So that's my number 3.
Pretty dang big. My number 3 is, it involves the Lakers, but it's not the one from the weekend. Shaq to Miami, because basically he and Kobe couldn't play nice. So, yeah, that would be my number 3. I mean, that team had a chance to do some real damage, historically speaking, and they couldn't get over each other. So, Shaq to Miami, number 3.
The big fella. There's so many. We could have done a full blown list, by the way, of just Lakers trades, just for the record, good and bad. That's one that kind of perhaps went against them in that regard. Up next for me, this one will go down. They didn't necessarily win a title as a result of this, but when the Patriots got Randy Moss for a 4th round draft pick from the Raiders, what the hell are the Raiders thinking? Because everybody seemingly in the rest of the NFL saw this coming. You get one of the all-time greats, if not the best, pairing him up with Brady and just rewriting the record books. Didn't win the title, but they did everything but.
Absolutely. My number 4, we've talked about it on this show before, Hall of Famer CC Sabathia going from Cleveland to Milwaukee. Look up his stretch run with the Brewers. Number 5, Wade?
Number 5, Pau Gasol to the Lakers. I cried when they got rid of Pau Gasol, but I smiled when they ended up getting his brother from the trade, Marc Gasol.
There we go. My number 5, Dale Murphy to Philadelphia. I swore I would never root for the Braves again. Obviously, I was wrong. Top 5 Tuesday brought to you by Mid-South 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. SteelAthletes.com. Check them out. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday. Main Street Sports Today. We'll see y'all here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.